be with you guys tonight. This is my 5th year attending Husker Catholic Live, and each time I leave in awe of our God and His goodness. It's incredible to be in a room filled with men and women who are not only fighting for God's love to be known in the world by their witness, but also have a heart for equipping this next generation of our church. This is my 6th year with Focus, and my 5th year serving at UNL, 2nd year as the team director. And as the team director, I have a very privileged perspective of the transforming power of God's love on campus. I have the opportunity to walk alongside the 13 other missionaries on our team and hear stories each week of victory, stories of souls encountering Christ, coming to know their worth, and ultimately seeking the call upon their life. I want to share with you tonight 2 stories that are close to my heart that encapsulate what the Newman Center is all about. Forging college students fully alive into saints fully alive in Christ. I know that each missionary on my team also has many, many stories of their own. So 5 years ago, Josh was a gymnast at UNL, involved in the Newman Center as a student disciple. He took a risk and invited his Methodist teammate, Zach, to the Catholic Bible study he was attending. Zach planned to attend seminary after college to become a Methodist pastor, and so he grew up with many misconceptions about the Catholic faith and carried a very negative perspective of the Catholic Church. However, he decided to come to Bible study, the Bible study that he was invited to, which was Catholic and led by a Focus missionary, Max, who's actually in this room tonight. He came with the sole purpose of just ruffling the feathers, and he came with many questions for Max about Mary, celibacy, all sorts of topics, just for the sole purpose of trying to stump Max. Over the course of the next 3 years, Max would walk alongside Zach, teaching him all about the Catholic faith, and upon learning about John 6, Zach knew that the Eucharist was true, and so he decided to become Catholic. Yeah! Meanwhile, I was introduced to Zach's friend Audrey, who is also a student athlete. She was a fallen-away Catholic, struggling to even believe in God at the time that I met her. And Audrey's first Bible study was the last in-person Bible study before the COVID shutdowns. So she started consistently coming to our Bible studies over Zoom, and each week I would call her on FaceTime and answer her questions and just get to talk to her and build a relationship with her. And the more she came to our Bible study, the more she began to learn about the heart of God and what it truly means to have a relationship with God. The next spring, Audrey would receive her first communion and get confirmed. Not much long after, Zach and Audrey would get married at the Newman Center. While at the Newman Center served as a beautiful home for Zach and Audrey to find rest during their time in college, and the power of the spiritual formation that they received throughout their time as students didn't just end after 4 years at UNL. It's radically transformed their hearts to be sent on mission as bold witnesses in their faith with their family and their friends. Right after college, Zach got offered the head gymnastics coach position at a university. They moved, found a parish to attend. Audrey became the religious education teacher at the parish. Zach began his job, and they were excited to start building their family. From the beginning, Zach and Audrey said that they were open to life in their marriage. However, early on, they tragically suffered a miscarriage. In the time of great grief, Zach opened up to his team about the hardship that he was going through. His vulnerability led one of his freshman athletes 4 days after the news of the miscarriage to confide in Zach that he and his girlfriend, who was in high school at the time, were expecting, and they weren't sure what to do. What's so striking to me about Zach's witness is his accompaniment. In the same way Max accompanied him in his apprehension, Zach accompanied his athlete, working with him to make sure he could prioritize going to doctor's appointments to check up on the baby, as well as going to practice with their busy season schedule. By the way Zach loved his athlete through built trust and companionship, he eventually asked Zach and Audrey if they would consider adopting his baby. Zach and Audrey are now the proud parents of 4-month-old Magdalene, who was baptized just a few months ago. I got to talk to Audrey on the phone this week, and she shared that the adoption process was one of the most rigorous, stressful times of her life. And she could not have said yes with confidence if it weren't for her Catholic faith. She first learned to pray in college and with frequent adoration while a student at UNL, and she knew the voice of God was speaking to her in great peace when she was asked to become the adoptive mother of Magdalene. She chose Mary Magdalene as her confirmation saint, and because of this, she knew she wanted to name her daughter Magdalene. She said a lot of things would not have happened if it weren't for her faith. Zach and I probably would not have ended up getting married. We probably wouldn't have been open to life in our marriage, and we definitely would not have had the gift of Magdalene. It's been over 3 years since Zach became Catholic, and he's continued to have a devotion to the Eucharist, and is leading a Bible study with athletes on his campus, as well as investing in the men around him. In fact, one of his athletes actually plans to enter the church this spring. Zach and Audrey's story is a story of victory of God's love. What feels like a script of a movie scene is just one story of a student who came to know what love is through the Newman Center. And they not only went on to be a witness to the world, but a mother and a father striving to raise a saint fully alive in Christ. As missionaries, I really feel the Newman Center here is one of the greatest to be sent to. The amazing support of priests, the formation of classes. We have formation classes almost every night of the week. We have a beautiful chapel to invite students into. The list goes on. We have the special opportunity of witnessing one of our own, Michelle Dupont, servant of God, as she takes steps towards canonization. And I firmly believe this center, we will see more saints within our lifetime. Servant of God Michelle Dupont was a former FOCUS missionary who served at UNL. In fact, the same time that Father Calc was a student here. And ever since I learned about Michelle's story as a first-year FOCUS missionary, I've been drawn to her. And even more when I moved to Lincoln, knowing she served here. In her late 20s, Michelle was diagnosed with cancer and battled the disease with a patient and cheerful spirit. And many will say that her suffering is what made her heroic virtue distinct. Her witness to trust in God is an example to the Christian life, and she's on her way to becoming a canonized saint. And I believe she is a saint for our times, our families, and this specific campus. About 2 months ago, we were at our weekly team dinner, and my teammate's wife, Erin, handed her team a relic of Servant of God, Michelle Dupont. Upon receiving the relic that Monday night, I admittedly did not want to receive it. I had an immediate sense in the pit of my stomach that cancer would be near me. 2 weeks later, I found myself in San Diego at the house that I grew up in, accompanied by 2 of my teammates, holding on to the relic of Michelle in my hand, on my knees in prayer, next to my mom, begging through her intercession for a miraculous healing upon her. The day I received the relic, my mom went for a walk and could not finish. She had to call my dad to come pick her up. What she thought was a flare-up of her sciatic nerve pain turned into intensified back pain. From that day forward, each day, she began to rapidly decline to the point where she couldn't walk. Shortly after we found out, the pain my mom was enduring was an aggressive form of stage 3 bone cancer. Well, I wish I could stand here and tell you right then and there right then and there was a miraculous physical healing, and she's all better. God had a different story, one of companionship. In Matthew 28, Jesus tells us, "I will be with you until the end of the age." And what Zach was to his athlete, what Michelle has been to my mom, what Jesus invites all of us as his disciples, and what he modeled here on earth, is the art of accompaniment. God has let Michelle's witness of intense suffering and joy, and knowing Christ within her pain, to be an example for my mom, and ultimately bring her back to the sacraments and a life of prayer. From the day she found out her diagnosis until today, as she continues to receive chemo and radiation, she has turned to Michelle for hope, and the relic of Michelle has never left my mom's side. She'll ask, "Where's Michelle?" looking for the relic to hold, and she puts the relic underneath her pillow each night when she goes to bed to remind her Michelle is with God and God is with her. On paper, Michelle died. However, the world is different because of it. Her life was an immense victory of love and a witness that sainthood is possible. What is so inspiring about Michelle's story is that while at UNL, people did not describe her as having super out-of-this-world charisms, but simply she was a woman with deep faith, a friend, a sister, a teammate, a daughter who placed her hope in Jesus and wanted others to know him. What I've learned through Zach and Audrey and Michelle's stories and countless others while here at the Newman Center is that God takes our little yeses and multiplies them. I would have never imagined that when I said yes to become a Focus missionary, I would witness the miraculous adoption of Magdalene, and my mom would come back to a life of prayer. Thank you to each one of you for your yes. It is through your participation in the Newman Center that many have come and many will come to know the love that they are made for, and their lives will be forever changed. Thank you so much.